The asset management life cycle really can be broken down into three components. The first is going to be capital planning. With capital planning, you really need to look at your entire asset install base, the maintenance cost associated with those assets, capital budgeting, as I mentioned, and developing a proactive, ongoing replacement strategy, looking at not what only you need this year, but looking at what you're going to need for your institution in the next 5 to 10 years. In order to do that, you really need to know your assets and what they produce and what their expenses are. So looking at the revenue these assets produce and what it means to maintain them on an ongoing basis. And then lastly, you really want to take a service line strategy to looking at your assets. Align your capital needs, align your service costs with your service, your strategic objectives. What do you want to do in the marketplace? Where do you want to invest in the future? I'm going to go over a case study. We had a client that was experiencing a drop in revenue and what they perceived as a drop in their market share. It was a large national diagnostic imaging provider that was a multi-state system with multi-centers within the states. They did not have a good handle on what the assets were. They did not know really when their end of service life was for these assets. They were not aware of their end of product life. And they were also paying multi-vendors to service these assets. What we did is we came in and we reviewed their entire install base, all their modalities. We looked at what they were paying for service on GE products and non-GE products. We discussed with them what their replacement strategy was and found out that they really didn't have a true replacement strategy. And we asked them where they wanted to grow in certain markets, and they didn't really have a good handle on what their strategic growth was. And we also wanted to look at what their competition, where they were going to be placing assets if there was competition eroding some of their market share. The results were dramatic. The client was able to better deploy the right asset to the right location. We're talking about a multi-state, multi-center system, but this could also apply to a single hospital or into an integrated delivery system. They were also able to better project what their capital needs were, not only, again, for next year, but for the next 5 years out. And by doing the market study, they were seeing where their market was growing or contracting and adjust their asset base appropriately. Most importantly, the client was able to realize immediately a 20% savings in their service costs by able to looking at their service cost and consolidating service costs to 1 or 2 vendors.